Alright, listen up, time travel enthusiasts and skeptics. We're about to dive headfirst into the swirling vortex where science fiction and reality do the tango. But before you start auctioning off your stuff to buy a vintage DeLorean, let's get real. You won't be outrunning time anytime soon. So, put away your plutonium stash and cool your jets, because time travel isn't in the garage next to your dad's old tools. Now, brace yourselves, because this tale is going to get weird. Sergei Ponomarenko, the Ukrainian time-traveling sensation, supposedly jumped from 1958 to 2006 Kiev without breaking a sweat. It sounds like a plot from a sci-fi sitcom, but here's the kicker. We've got pictures, and they're not just selfies with weird filters. So, did Sergei truly give Father Time the slip? Could he have stumbled upon a wormhole while looking for his car keys? I'm not here to make you a believer or a doubter, but remember this. The universe is full of surprises. And if Sergei can dance through time's tangled web, who's to say what other cosmic conundrums are lurking in the wings? But hey, let's not keep all this fascinating knowledge to ourselves. Join our community of curious minds by subscribing right away. When you do, drop us a comment saying, "I subscribe," to let us know you're on board. We'll be thrilled to respond and engage with your questions and suggestions. Together, let's embark on an exciting journey to uncover hidden secrets and untold tales on Becker's Casual History. On April 23, 2006, a man in his late 20s to early 30s found himself in a rather perplexing situation, in the custody of the police due to some suspicious behavior. This individual was more disoriented than a GPS without satellites, relentlessly questioning the current year as if he'd just taken a cosmic detour. Identifying himself as Sergei Ponomarenko, he dropped a bombshell that would make even the most seasoned officers raise their eyebrows. Apparently, only moments before, Sergei had been living a charming life back in the good old year of 1958. The authorities, naturally, demanded identification. Sergei, ever the showman, produced a Soviet-era national ID card, an archaeological relic considering Ukraine's independence from the USSR in 1991. But what flabbergasted the officers even more was the uncanny resemblance between Sergei and the young face peering out from the ID. Sergei was dressed like he'd just stepped out of a vintage fashion catalogue from the 1950s. Think slick suits and pocket watches. To complete the retro ensemble, he had an antiquated film camera slung around his neck, ready to capture life's moments as if he were preserving them for an era yet to come. Understandably, the police, not being seasoned time travel detectives, came to the reasonable conclusion that Sergei might need a bit of medical assistance for his apparent delusions. So off he was sent to a psychiatric clinic in Kiev, where Dr. Pablo Kutrikov assumed the role of reality check administrator. The date was still April 23, 2006, and the session was set for a proper examination. And as the session unfolded, Sergei's narrative seemed to defy the laws of common sense. He declared himself to be Sergei Valentinovich Ponomarenko, born back in the heyday of Kiev on June 16, 1932. But here's the kicker. The man seated before Dr. Kutrikov didn't look a day over 30. When asked about his age, Sergei confidently confirmed that he was 25 years old. He proceeded to narrate an account to the doctor that reads like something straight out of an otherworldly novel. According to Sergei Ponomarenko, his memory cut off at a point where he was strolling through Kiev alongside his fiancée, Valentina Kurish. The couple's leisurely walk took a curious twist when they decided to capture a moment with Sergei's trusty camera. But here's where things veer into the realm of the surreal. Just after the snap, Sergei's gaze locked onto something unusual in the sky, describing the airborne oddity as bell-shaped and engaging in a rather peculiar flight pattern. Sergei's curiosity got the better of him. He figured he could get a better view and perhaps snap a picture of this mysterious object. And then, as if the universe decided to play a cosmic prank, Sergei found himself somewhere he couldn't quite wrap his head around, the year 2006. Now, if this were just another tale of fantastical fiction, it'd be easy to dismiss as a product of an overactive imagination. But, as you might have guessed, Sergei wasn't content with being just a storyteller. No, he claimed to have evidence, that magical word that turns speculation into something a bit more serious. To get to the bottom of this curious case, to either debunk Sergei's claims or reassure him that his interstellar photo shoot didn't result in temporal shenanigans, Dr. Kutrikov took the logical step of developing the photos. Sergei carried with him a vintage camera loaded with a film that, in a twist that would make even the most seasoned photographers scratch their heads, defied modern techniques of development. An expert in photography was summoned to tackle the challenge, to tease out the secrets locked within those old frames. As the expert unwound the reel of Sergei's antiquated film, he was met with a surprise that sent a shiver down his spine. The film, a relic of a bygone era, a type that had ceased production in the 1970s, was in impeccable condition. But it was the images that materialized from the depths of time that truly left everyone baffled. Among the developed photographs lay snapshots of 1950s Kiev, a portrait of a woman eerily matching Sergei's age, and a striking capture of Sergei himself, dressed in the same attire as his interview with Dr. Kutrikov. Yet, the Pista Resistance was an unmistakable image of a bell-shaped UFO, hanging nonchalantly in the sky, mirroring Sergei's earlier account with uncanny precision. The weight of this evidence was too immense to ignore. Thus, on April 25, 2006, Sergei once again found himself under the spotlight in a recorded tête-à-tête with Dr. Kutrikov. Presented with the photographs, Sergei's response was nothing short of matter-of-fact. "I told you so," he essentially said, followed by the befuddling admission that he couldn't wrap his head around the image he'd inadvertently snapped. As the interview wrapped up, security cameras caught Sergei retreating into his clinic room. However, what ensued next remains as much a riddle as the temporal mysteries themselves. He seemingly vanished from the records, a disappearing act that defied explanation. Security bars on the windows ruled out an escape, leaving everyone scratching their heads over his baffling exit. The case took an even darker turn, evolving from an enigmatic account to a full-fledged investigation. Scrutinizing old Soviet Union records, the police confirmed the existence of a Sergei Valentinovich Ponomarenko, hailing from Kiev. Intriguingly, these same records painted a haunting narrative. This Sergei had officially been declared missing back in 1960. Desperate for answers, the police sought out the final piece of this convoluted puzzle: Sergei's fiancée, Valentina Krish. Here was a woman in her 70s, her age a stark contrast to the younger woman in one of the photos. Yet her memories unfurled a chilling revelation. Her fiancé, Sergei, had indeed vanished for a few inexplicable days in the distant past of 1958. Valentina unveiled another layer to the Sergei Ponomarenko saga. After his first brush with time travel, Sergei apparently returned with an extra trick up his sleeve: the ability to glimpse into the future. This remarkable revelation earned him a slot on national TV, where he confidently prophesied the inevitable rise of cell phones. Groundbreaking stuff, right? But that's not all. Valentina pulled out all the stops, presenting what she claimed was a photograph sent by Sergei himself from the year 2050. In this futuristic snapshot, an older Sergei stands against a Kiev skyline, adorned with skyscrapers that wouldn't grace the cityscape until much later. This peculiar image raises more questions than it answers. Fast forward to 1970, the last time Valentina laid eyes on Sergei before he pulled another vanishing act, leaving her hanging in a reality that seems stranger than fiction. It appears Sergei's last venture through time might have been a one-way ticket to the unknown. What lends this saga its mystique is the visual evidence on hand: a time-stamped video, photographs featuring Sergei, the enigmatic UFO, and of course his trusty ID card. But hold on to your skepticism hats, because the plot thickens even further. A closer look at that ID card reveals a peculiar quirk. The stamp appears fuzzier than a radio signal on a stormy night. For comparison's sake, Soviet-era ID cards typically featured a crisp, bold stamp. Moreover, the month of birth on this very ID card throws a spanner in the works. Sergei, in his video testimony, adamantly declares a June birth date in 1932. Yet the ID stubbornly insists on a March birth, hinting at a narrative tangle. Now let's discuss the camera film, a piece of this puzzle that's fraying at the edges. The story claims the film's miraculous preservation is a head-scratcher, considering its type was discontinued back in the 70s. But guess what? That particular film type wasn't quite extinct yet. You could still snag it from store shelves until 1990, throwing a wrench into the relic of the past argument. And let's not forget the effects of time on this film. If it had indeed traveled through the decades, it should have aged like a fine vinegar, reeking of degradation and decay. Before the 60s, film was crafted from cellulose acetate, and it had its limits. Yet Sergei's film, if it had really been on a temporal journey, should have exhibited a condition akin to vinegar syndrome. Think shrinking, cracking, and that distinctive smell of pickled produce. Still skeptical? Cast your eyes on that purported 2050 photo of Sergei. It's as if someone went overboard with Photoshop, recycling skyscrapers and duplicating landscapes like a clumsy forger. In the end, what began as a perplexing yarn now feels like a narrative wearing thin. As we navigate the twists and turns of this temporal tale, it's a reminder that even the most captivating stories can unravel under scrutiny. Or it could be true depending which side you lean on. Who the hell knows? You do you. Before we wrap up, we've got an exciting journey waiting for you. Ever heard of the CIA's Gateway process? It's a rabbit hole of mind-bending exploration that'll have you questioning reality itself. Click right over here to dive into the depths of consciousness, government experiments, and the uncharted territories of the mind. Don't miss out. Your next adventure starts with a simple click. Alright, listen up my fellow time travel enthusiasts and skeptics alike. In the distant days of 1995, in the heartland of Stanbury, Missouri, a 21-year-old named Mike Markham had a vision. This lad wanted to build a time machine from his porch so he could get those lottery numbers from the future and bathe in the glory of newfound riches. And oh boy, did Mike's journey get interesting. He even took a detour through the legal system for theft, because time machines don't build themselves after all. But here's where it gets wild. Mike vanishes into thin air a few years later. So, did he crack the time code and disappear into another era? Or did he just get a really good deal on a one-way ticket to Bermuda? Together, we'll find out if Mike Markham was a time-traveling pioneer. But hey, let's not keep all this fascinating knowledge to ourselves. Join our community of curious minds by subscribing right away. When you do, drop us a comment saying, "I subscribe," to let us know you're on board. We'll be thrilled to respond and engage with your questions and suggestions. Together, let's embark on an exciting journey to uncover hidden secrets and untold tales on Becker's casual history. In the vast landscape of scientific exploration, few topics capture the imagination quite like time travel. It's a realm where hypothetical arguments and futuristic theories collide, probing the fundamental questions of the universe and delving into the mysteries of the quantum world. While mainstream physicists and academia dismiss time travel as impossible, a select few remain undeterred, dedicating themselves to the pursuit of the extraordinary. Enter Madman Mike Markham. Back in 1995, Michael Markham found himself briefly navigating the challenges of unemployment after a short stint studying electrical engineering. Undeterred by setbacks, Markham believed that securing funding for his private endeavors could lead to a groundbreaking invention, a potential escape from his financial struggles. Little did he know that this brief venture would thrust him into the epicenter of one of the internet's most perplexing time travel mysteries. At 21, Malcolm was grappling with desperation, and acquaintances noted a visible decline. During this tumultuous period, Markham, in his pursuit of the extraordinary, toyed with a seemingly simple electrical device, the Jacob's ladder. Now, a Jacob's ladder is no mere trinket. It's a contraption designed to illustrate the mesmerizing dance of electricity when paired with rising hot air. Envision a transformer at the base, creating a potential difference between two vertical, parallel wires. Electrons, eager to distance themselves, leap between these wires, generating a spark that heats up the air. As the heated air rises, the spark follows suit, only to reset at the bottom. Enter Markham, who introduces a CD player laser into the mix in order to reduce air resistance and create a continuous arc of electricity. And this is where things take a turn for the bizarre. According to him, the electrical arc transforms into a vortex, distorting light in an almost three-dimensional spectacle. Intrigued, he decides to conduct a peculiar experiment involving a sheet metal screw. Markham claimed that upon tossing the screw into the vortex, it defied conventional physics and vanished into thin air. However, the plot thickens. Seconds later, the screw reappears, prompting him to boldly theorize that he'd stumbled upon the properties of a time machine. Eager to test this newfound hypothesis, Markham embarks on a quest for more powerful transformers. There's just one snag: the cost. With a hefty price tag exceeding $20,000, financial constraints threaten to derail his temporal ambitions. Undeterred, Markham pivots to a daring plan involving a local power station. Under the cloak of night, he scouts the area and discovers 6 inactive transformers, each weighing over 300 pounds. Back at home, he connects these behemoths to his power lines, constructing a supersized Jacob's ladder. Ready for the grand experiment, he flips the switch. Alas, disaster strikes. The overloaded transformers cause a massive brownout, wreaking havoc on the electrical grid and leaving half the city in the dark. To add salt to the wound, his 6 transformers fizzle out, rendering his time travel ambitions momentarily grounded. As fate would have it, Markham's roommate, embroiled in a dispute with the next-door neighbor, attracts the attention of the police after blowing out their door's window on the same day, adding another layer of chaos to this already tumultuous journey. Following the glass door incident, Markham found himself wrongly accused by the police. Indignant, he pointed the finger at his roommate, claiming the BB gun shenanigans were a retaliatory strike. When law enforcement delved into the Transformers experiment aftermath, they discovered the stolen evidence stashed in an outdoor shed. Cue the handcuffs, and off to jail went Mike Markham. In court, Markham faced a laundry list of charges, including over $13,000 worth of stolen materials and property damage exceeding $100,000. Surprisingly, he only received a 60-day sentence. This may have to do with Markham's defense, where he proudly asserted to have crafted a time machine for the noble pursuit of grabbing those winning lottery numbers. The judge, sensing some serious mental impairment, handed down the minimum sentence. The saga took an unexpected turn when the Kansas City Star ran a cheeky story on the Markham case, thrusting him into local stardom. The tale gained enough traction that Art Bell, the host of the paranormal radio show Coast to Coast AM, reached out to Markham. His goal? To boost funding for Markham's time travel endeavors. On the radio, Markham spilled the beans on his time machine and the peculiar electromagnetic field vortex, even throwing in a nod to the Philadelphia experiment. Skepticism ran high among callers, dismissing the blackout as a government cover-up hoax. That is until a surprising guest dialed in, Markham's arresting officer. He spilled the beans on Markham's personal lab, revealing bizarre inventions like an e-cigarette light made from a microwave oven and a self-programmed electronic piggy bank. By the show's end, Markham wasn't just collecting calls, he was raking in dollars from fellow time travel enthusiasts eager to fund his endeavors. With ample cash in hand, Art Bell suggested a shift in focus, but Markham was unwavering, stating that every penny would fund the time machine. In addition, he also planned to bring his cell phone along for the ride, ready to document the spectacle of time travel. The stage was set for the next chapter in the mad tale of Mike Markham. Several months later, he reached out to Art Bell, boasting about his upgraded time machine, designed with the help of believers. The key? A transformer made from copper lining and crystals, supposedly tapping into infinite zero-point vacuum energy for free power. Mike claimed his design could harness over 3 gigawatts of power, equivalent to lighting up almost 1 million homes. Concerned about Mike's apparent delusions, Art Bell tried to dissuade him from jumping into the electric charge of the Jacob's ladder, warning of potential harm. In a bizarre twist, he dismissed the safety concerns, comparing the ladder to the beanstalk from Jack and the Beanstalk. Undeterred, Madman Mike Markham, as he now liked to be called, embraced his experiment. Before the show ended, Mike boldly shared his home address, inviting listeners to witness the experiment's aftermath. Soon after, groups of people, seemingly trolling Mike for his time travel obsession, started showing up at his house. In one peculiar incident, during a party with fellow time travel enthusiasts, Mike stepped away briefly, only to return to find his couch mysteriously gone. Accusations flew, and some claimed the couch had teleported through a time vortex. Years later, a concerned listener called into Coast to Coast AM, asking about Mike's fate. Art Bell, intrigued by the mystery, looked into it, only to discover that Mike had vanished. His phone number was inactive, and close friends were clueless about his whereabouts. The last anyone heard, Mike mentioned working on one last experiment. As the search for Mike unfolded on the radio show, a caller added an eerie twist. They recounted a 1930s case of a body found on a California beach, eerily matching Mike's description. The man had been crushed to death within a tightening metal tube, accompanied by strange plastic and metallic devices resembling a modern cell phone. The uncanny parallels between this body and Mike, who claimed he'd bring only his cell phone on his time travel journey, sparked speculation. Could the 1930s body be Mike Markham from the distant future? The internet buzzed with fascination. However, the reality surrounding Mike Markham's disappearance though not as thrilling as time travel theories, is anything but mundane. Interestingly, Mike Markham had been an active participant on the paranormal forum, frequently sharing his time travel theories and updates on new machine designs. However, financial troubles prompted him to make a significant move, seeking solace and a fresh start in Hawaii. Upon his arrival in Hawaii, the accumulated challenges of the past years caught up with him, resulting in a complete depletion of his funds and a worsening financial situation. Today, Markham finds himself homeless, residing on the beaches of Hawaii. Despite his current struggles, he remains determined to gather enough resources to one day return to the mainland of the United States and resume his research into time travel. As we wrap up this intriguing journey into the world of Madman Mike Markham, it's vital to acknowledge that the details of his Hawaii chapter may not be entirely accurate. The full picture remains elusive, leaving us with unanswered questions. So did the stolen Transformers and Jacob's Ladder truly catalyze a time-traveling endeavor, or was it a journey into the complexities of a troubled mind? And where is he now? If you've enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Becca's Casual History. Your support means the world to us. Join us as we continue uncovering the strange and fascinating tales of our world. And of course, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching.
What if I told you there's a secret that could change the way you see the world? In a time and place when Einstein's theories were the spark that ignited scientific imaginations. Enter Nikolai Kozyrev, a brilliant astrophysicist who dared to tread where others merely whispered in hushed tones. Locked away in a Siberian labor camp, he dared to dream of manipulating time and space, creating something known as the Kozyrev Mirror. And what happened next? UFOs, cosmic visitors, and revelations that defy conventional explanation. But hey, why keep all this fascinating knowledge to ourselves? Join our community of curious minds today by subscribing right away and unlock the world's curiosities on Becca's Casual History. Did the Kozyrev Mirror really act as a beacon for UFOs over the North Pole in 1990? To understand this extraordinary phenomenon, we have to take a deep dive into the story's origins. This extraordinary narrative finds its roots in the grim reality of the Soviet Union's infamous gulags, featuring a brilliant astrophysicist named Nikolai Alexandrovich Kozyrev. It's the 1930s, and Kozyrev's actions managed to irk none other than the Soviet Premier, Joseph Stalin. The consequence? A chilling 20-year sentence in a Siberian labor camp. What makes this tale even more fascinating is Kozyrev's deep admiration for none other than Albert Einstein, and his groundbreaking theories about the fourth dimension, encompassing space and time. This admiration served as the catalyst for Kozyrev's audacious mirror experiment. Now imagine Kozyrev confined to a Siberian cell, devoid of any scientific instruments or reference materials. So Kozyrev pondered, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, can you make time travel a reality?" Well, for this astrophysicist, the answer was a resounding yes. He hypothesized that certain materials, when shaped correctly, could manipulate the very fabric of time and space. In his own words, a mirror can be made that can bend absolutely anything, including time. Time travel is possible in a mirror. His groundbreaking idea was brought to life in a device known as the Kozyrev Mirror. But the story takes an unexpected turn. Just as Kozyrev's time concentrator was born, he left this world in 1983. And not long after, the iron grip of the Soviet Union began to crumble. With newfound freedom, the former Soviet society embraced experimentation in various realms, from politics to science. This era of openness, referred to as glasnost, provided the perfect environment to realize Kozyrev's groundbreaking mirror. It was Russian Dr. Vlail Kaznachev and his colleague Dr. Alexander Trofimov who took the plunge, building the very first Kozyrev mirror. In December of 1990, the two intrepid researchers embarked on a mission to a remote village near the North Pole, a place by the name of Dixon. Their venture with the mirror commenced with an uncanny occurrence. On the very day they set up the mirror in Dixon, December 20th, 1990, they recorded their inaugural UFO sightings. Witnesses described these UFOs as having the appearance of car headlights, but with a peculiar twist. Their beams pointed in the opposite direction of the craft's flight. Fast forward to December 27th and something truly extraordinary unfolded. While the Northern Lights are a common spectacle in these parts due to Dixon's proximity to the North Pole, this night was different. Villagers reported an astonishing sight. thousands of multicolored arrows rained down from the sky, converging around the research headquarters. This phenomenon left even recording instruments perplexed, causing them to falter and fail. It wasn't long before the researchers discovered another remarkable effect. Small steel objects in the vicinity had been magnetized, hinting at a significant disturbance in the Earth's magnetic field. These researchers were informed that the Earth's magnetic field had undergone a severe disruption, with the measurement of nanoteslas used to gauge the magnetic field's strength spiking dramatically from 160 to 990 NTs. With these extraordinary events unfolding, the time had come for volunteers to step into the mirror. However, their initial encounters with the mirror invoked primal and animalistic emotions, leaving them overwhelmed by fear. As they braved this fear, volunteers reported witnessing a stream of symbols, akin to neon signs, parading before their eyes. Among these symbols, one stood out, recurring persistently: the Eye of Providence, an ancient emblem etched into temple stones by civilizations spanning thousands of years. These symbols were accompanied by sensations of nausea, paranoia, dread, and dizziness. Awaiting them within the mirror was a figure, faceless and dressed in white. As the experience unfolded, the symbols gradually gave way to human-like forms, all clad in white attire. These spectral figures, however, had a tendency to disappear abruptly, leaving the volunteers perplexed. One volunteer had an extraordinary encounter. A figure materialized in the room, devoid of a face, and conveyed a troubling message. "Your planet is in danger. It is suffering. There may be a disaster." When asked for specifics, the figure remained silent. For others, the experience took diverse and surreal forms. Some felt an encroaching presence from both sides, followed by a vision of a volcanic eruption with cascading lava. There were those who reported witnessing flying black discs with white windows, while another recounted a vision of themselves at the age of 5, accompanied by the appearance of a tall man in a white suit. As the experiment unfolded, a remarkable 30 to 40% of participants reported encounters with their own past lives or witnessed historical events. These phenomena were more common among those who spent extended periods within the mirror. According to statistics gathered by the researchers, a staggering 85% of volunteers felt as though they had been propelled into the boundless expanse of outer space. Approximately 75% claimed to have sighted unidentified flying objects, or UFOs. Furthermore, an additional 68% sensed the presence of an observer described as humanoid but lacking facial features. These observers seemingly possessed an uncanny ability to influence the volunteers, akin to mind control. The bewildering experiences of those in the Kozyrev experiment left the researchers baffled. They were uncertain whether these were mere visual projections, akin to television images, or something more profound. For the volunteers, these encounters were an undeniable reality, evoking the sensation of having traversed through time. This peculiar mirror appeared to be more than a mere temporal device, as it brought participants in contact with entities beyond the realms of human experience. It raised the curious notion that the scientists might have inadvertently constructed a rudimentary means of reaching out to UFOs. Intriguingly, the two scientists behind the Kozyrev mirror found themselves grappling with the physical, psychological, and psychic effects it had on the participants. Did the opening of a portal lead us into a world we were ill-prepared to face? Dr. Kazanachev expressed concern that the aftermath of the mirror experiment could be an unforeseen result of engaging with the time-energy phenomena the Kozyrev mirror unleashed. His fears centered on the notion that the human mind might not possess the capacity to comprehend this experience. Furthermore, Kazanachev proposed an intriguing theory, one that painted the Kozyrev mirror as a gateway to an alternative realm, potentially unfriendly to humanity. He speculated that the presence of these white entities and UFOs hinted at the existence of an intelligence within the mirror that might not have our best interests at heart. The fact that participants experienced unexplainable fear, health issues, and moments of mental instability raised the unsettling possibility that these entities could have a detrimental impact on humans. This notion of cosmic consciousness, though tantalizing, could be deeply disturbing to us. The researchers were left grappling with a power that exceeded their understanding. In Kazanachev's words, "We have yet to unravel the enigmas concealed within these mirrors. Working with them carries numerous threats." He went on to suggest that the universe remains largely unattainable. The initial experiment with the Kozyrev mirror concluded in the spring of 1991. Since then, Kazanachev has been involved in efforts to urge the United Nations to ban psychotronic weapons. What do you think about this perplexing journey? Could it be a portal to another dimension, a window into cosmic consciousness, or something beyond our wildest imagination? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this exploration into the uncharted territories of history and the unexplainable, don't forget to subscribe to Becca's Casual History for more mind-bending stories and intriguing mysteries. Thanks for joining us.
Time travel, my fellow enthusiasts, has been a head-scratching puzzle that's had us captivated for centuries. The idea of traveling to the past or future, witnessing historical events, or catching a glimpse of what the future holds is an enticing mix of fascination and excitement. Now, let's delve into one of the most debated stories in the alleged time travel realm, the fascinating case of Rudolph Fentz. According to the tale, this man disappeared in the 19th century and then reappeared in the 20th century. It's a story that has become a staple in our urban legends collection. But, as always, there's a question lingering. Did this seemingly impossible journey through time really happen? But hey, let's not keep all this fascinating knowledge to ourselves. Join our community of curious minds by subscribing right away. When you do, drop us a comment saying, "I subscribe," to let us know you're on board. We'll be thrilled to respond and engage with your questions and suggestions. Together, let's embark on an exciting journey to uncover hidden secrets and untold tales on Becca's Casual History. Legend has it that in mid-June 1951, around 11 p.m., a peculiar man was discovered aimlessly wandering New York's Times Square. Estimated to be about 29 years old, he sported outdated clothing and seemed to have materialized out of thin air. Baffled onlookers observed as the disoriented man stumbled around the bustling square, appearing lost. When concerned individuals approached him, he insisted he hailed from the year 1876. Authorities were summoned, but before help arrived, the man tragically met his end. Unaware of the dangers posed by cars, he stepped into the street and was struck by a speeding taxicab. His lifeless body was taken to the nearest morgue, and the confusion deepened as officials examined his belongings. So why does the internet speculate that Rudolph Fentz was a time traveler? It's not just his sudden appearance or old-fashioned clothes, it's what they found in his pockets. The morgue officials discovered a 5-cent beer token with an unrecognized bar name. Alongside that was about $70 in outdated banknotes, which raised a few eyebrows. Even stranger still was a bill for horse care and carriage washing. Adding to the peculiarity were business cards with Rudolph Fentz's name and a Fifth Avenue address, along with a letter dated 1876. None of these items showed signs of aging, despite supposedly being nearly 80 years old. The case landed on Captain Hubert Fifth Rhymes' desk at the NYPD's Missing Persons Department. He traced the address to a Fifth Avenue business but hid a deed end when the owner didn't know Rudolph Fentz. Rhymes checked the phone book and found no one named Rudolph Fentz, no fingerprints, and no matching missing persons report. However, he spotted an entry for Rudolph Fentz Jr. in a 1939 phone book. Rhymes tracked Fentz Jr. to a building where residents recalled him as a man in his 60s who had relocated in 1940. Unfazed, he delved into Fentz Jr.'s bank records, revealing he had passed away 5 years earlier. When Rhymes spoke with Fentz Jr.'s wife in Florida, she shared unsettling details. She disclosed the disappearance of Rudolph Fentz, her husband's father, who vanished at 29 during an evening walk and was last seen at Times Square. Confirming this, Rhymes found Rudolph Fentz in the 1876 missing person files, matching the man in the morgue. To avoid potential ridicule, Rhymes closed the case as unresolved, finding the strangeness deeply unsettling. Fentz's story seems to have entered the public realm around 1972, but really blew up during the internet age. People became convinced that Fentz was a time traveler. His demeanor, clothes, and the objects he carried all pointed to it. The prevailing theory was that he had somehow slipped through a wormhole or portal and ended up in the 20th century. Not everyone believes Fentz was a time traveler, and there are reasons to agree with them. The prevailing theory for a long time was that Fentz was a hoax, possibly fabricated to fool the public or make money. Some suggested he might have been an actor hired by a journalist, prankster, or writer, aiming to create a sensational story, but met with an unfortunate accident. Another possibility is that Fentz was a lost soul, someone suffering from a dissociative identity disorder, or a delusional disorder who adopted Fence's identity. Message boards pointed out that Fence's name, address, and occupation were common in the 19th century, suggesting it could be a coincidence that a man named Fence went missing around the time the supposed time traveler emerged. His clothes and belongings might have been obtained from a costume shop or an antique store. While these are all plausible theories, we now know they are incorrect. In 2000, folklore researcher Chris Albrecht investigated the story after it appeared in a Spanish magazine, portrayed as a factual report. He traced its origin to the 1972 May-June issue of the Journal of Borderland Research, also presented as a factual report. Further digging revealed that the magazine obtained the Fence story from a 1953 book, A Voice from the Gallery, by Ralph M. Holland. The following year, Holland's plagiarism was exposed when Pastor George Murphy corrected him. It turned out that Holland had plagiarized the story from either a 1952 Robert Heinlein science fiction anthology, Tomorrow the Stars, or a short story published in Collier's magazine. Regardless of the source, the conclusion remained the same. Rudolph Fence wasn't an urban legend or a real-life time traveler. He was a character in a short story titled I'm Scared, created by the famous science fiction writer Jack Finney. This urban legend can be considered thoroughly debunked. If you've enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Becca's Casual History. Join us as we continue uncovering the strange and fascinating tales of our world. And of course, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching.
Have you ever wondered, are we living in a computer simulation? Today, we embark on a journey into the heart of the simulation argument, a concept that challenges our very existence. Stick around as we explore 3 thought-provoking possibilities, a world of advanced civilizations, and the intriguing principle of bland indifference. This is the great simulation debate, unraveling the mysteries of our reality. But hey, let's not keep all this fascinating knowledge to ourselves. Join our community of curious minds by subscribing right away. When you do, drop us a comment saying I subscribe to let us know you're on board. We'll be thrilled to respond and engage with your questions and suggestions. Together, let's embark on an exciting journey to uncover hidden secrets and untold tales on Becca's Casual History. Our exploration of the simulation argument reveals 3 key ideas, each offering a different view of our existence. First, we consider the idea that human civilizations, like ours, might never advance to a super-advanced stage. This means they might face the risk of disappearing before reaching this advanced state. In this case, we question whether we'll ever get far enough to create detailed simulations of our history. The second idea is quite different. It suggests that even if advanced civilizations do appear, they might have no interest in making ancestor simulations. This relies on the idea that these advanced societies would share similar beliefs. In such a world, the goals and values of these civilizations might not want to do it. Lastly, we dive into a fascinating concept, the possibility that we are probably living inside a simulation. This shakes up our understanding of reality. If it's true, it means the world we know is not what it appears to be. It's a meticulously crafted virtual reality. In this scenario, our lives and experiences are just a small part of a much bigger, more complex reality that exists at a deeper level. These 3 ideas are at the heart of the simulation argument. Now imagine a future where human civilizations have evolved into advanced post-human societies. These beings have incredible computing power and scientific knowledge. It's a world where technology has reached levels we can only dream of today. In this future, simulating the past, especially their own evolutionary history, becomes not just possible but perhaps quite common. With their enormous computational abilities, they could create countless simulations of their ancestors, replicating every aspect of their lives. The interesting part comes when we wonder if these beings, like us, could have consciousness. What if most of the minds throughout history aren't original humans, but are actually created by advanced simulations? This idea changes how we see ourselves. Instead of being the first humans creating ancestor simulations, we might be among the simulated minds, part of a complex crafted story. This is the core of the simulation argument. But first, let's check out the technology of these advanced civilizations that can run detailed simulations. In the future, they could use the computing power of planets and celestial bodies. Their abilities are so vast that it's hard to imagine. Even if we consider existing technologies like nanotechnology, it's a level of computing that's tricky to understand. Simulating a human mind needs a massive amount of computing power. Various estimates give us an idea. To create an accurate simulation of the brain, you'd need operations at an astronomical scale every second. If we want to simulate every tiny detail, those numbers get even bigger. Simulating the entire universe to the quantum level might seem impossible unless they discover new physics. But for a convincing human experience, you need less. The focus is mainly on making sure simulated humans don't notice anything odd. They don't have to copy every tiny detail, just what they can see. When it comes to simulating human history, we can't give an exact cost. But rough estimates give us an idea of how big it is. Even if our guesses aren't exact, it doesn't change the main idea. These advanced post-human societies have more computing power than we can understand. Even if they use just some of it for ancestor simulations, they can run a huge number. This leads to a big question. If they can run so many simulations and want to, what does it mean for our reality? This is where the bland indifference principle comes in. This principle is quite simple. When we're in a situation where we don't have enough information to pick one possibility over another, we should treat each possibility as equally likely. Let's make this idea clearer with two scenarios. In scenario 1, imagine a group of people and they all have the same genetic sequence. But we can't tell who has this sequence, and it doesn't change anything about them. Since we have no clues about who has it, we should assume that we have it with a certain chance. For scenario 2. Now, remember the simulation argument? If we're not sure whether we're in a simulation or not, and we can't figure out which group we belong to, then we should think that we're in a simulation with a certain chance. This might sound a bit abstract, but it's a way to handle uncertainty about our own existence, especially when we don't have information pointing us in one direction or the other. It doesn't mean we have to be indifferent about everything. It only applies when we're unsure and don't have specific details. The bland indifference principle helps us deal with this complex situation without getting overwhelmed by the unknown. It allows us to consider the idea that we might be living in a simulation without getting stuck in doubt. Now that we've talked about the bland indifference principle, let's bring everything together. Remember, there are 3 key possibilities to think about. 1. Only a few civilizations like ours make it to a post-human stage. 2. Even if post-human civilizations exist, they might not be interested in running a video game like us. 3. The most important possibility is that most beings like us are living in a simulation. In this case, our reality isn't what it appears to be. It's a computer-made creation. Because post-human civilizations have supercomputing abilities, they could run many different worlds. This brings us to the big question. Which of these 3 possibilities is more likely? This is where the bland indifference principle comes in. It tells us that when we don't have enough information to prefer one possibility, we should treat them all as equally possible. It's a way to deal with the uncertainty of whether we live in a simulation. So do we live in a simulation? In the midst of all this uncertainty, one exciting idea stands out. It's quite possible. Our reality might be woven from the threads of a simulated world, something beyond what we currently understand. So what do you think? Are we in a simulation, or is our reality as real as it seems? It's a concept that is fascinating to ponder. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this exploration into the uncharted territories of history and the unexplainable, don't forget to like and subscribe to Becca's Casual History for more mind-bending stories and intriguing mysteries. Thanks for joining us.